strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal? If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Prograis. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Ryder.
All right, we're back with another edition of the Roundtable. We got another great panel in store for you tonight. We have the 2022 Boxing Writers Association of America Good Guy Award winner, Hall of Fame writer from RingTV.com. He is back with us, the illustrious Lee Groves. Welcome back, Lee. How are you today?
I'm doing well. You call me a Hall of Famer. Not yet, but I am a good guy.
I voted you in, Lee. I voted you in.
Okay, thank you. I'll send the check later.
And from across the pond, we have devastating Danny the Lover Glover. And we have the extraordinary UK's finest, Base the Kid is in the house as well with us. Welcome, everybody. You know, news just broke today. Errol Spence activated the rematch clause. And I don't even know if I even want to go around the panel with this one. I'm just going to throw this one up in the air. Was this the right move for Errol Spence? And does anyone really care about this? Is the result going to be any different? Like, anyone, does anyone think the result's going to be any different? Does anyone think this is the right move? I don't even really want to waste my time going around and everyone just saying the same thing. Are we all in agreement?
It's the right move for him, because I don't think he's going to get I think this is probably his biggest payday, and then obviously he can move up to 154 properly and maybe get some belts if that's what he really wants to do. So for him, for bank balance, because I think he's got a guarantee in place, so it's right for him. But it's not going to be any different, and it's definitely not going to do the same kind of numbers as the first one done. There's not enough intrigue.
Yeah. What do you think, Lee? I mean, can magic happen here? We've seen the unexpected happen sometimes. I remember when Terry Norris got knocked out by Simon Brown, and then Terry Norris came back and danced circles around him. But I don't know. There's the way these styles match up. I don't see Errol Spence coming back and dancing circles around, Terence Crawford.
The thing about it is the relatively quick turnaround and the severity of the beating that he absorbed in July. Can Spence come back from that kind of punishment to basically raise his game to where Terence Crawford's was? It sounds impossible, but boxing is the theater of the unexpected. We can't completely close the door on it, but it doesn't look good. It is the right move for Spence monetarily. I don't know if the networks and the people who are bankrolling this are going to make enough money to cover the purses without having to dip into their own pockets. They may take a bath with this. But for his family, for himself, financially it's good. Health-wise, probably not. As far as how it might go, you would think that Spence could perform a little better than he did in July. He might raise his game a little bit, and Terence Crawford might not reach the spectacular heights of what he did in July, but the style elements just don't match up well for Spence. I see a repeat, not quite as severe, same winner.
Yeah. I don't think your mind's changed, has it, Danny? I mean, you pretty much had the
Someone's
same
got a big
opinion.
echo.
Yeah, let me see. Hold on for 1 second. See if I can mute somebody here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't think your mind's changed at all, has it, Danny? I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think this fight's kind of meaningless at this point.
This guy's just laughing. Stop it.
Why did you pick Spence before, Danny? Is that why he's throwing shots at you?
Yes, I lost over $300, man. I lost £250, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I picked Spence too. Don't feel bad.
Okay.
No, he feels bad because he lost money to me for picking him. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So that's what the laugh is all about. Yeah. So more news broke this week. WBC, from reports, what I've heard, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but it seems to be, a lot of people are reporting it, that they're going to order Frank Martin versus Shakur Stevenson for the vacant WBC lightweight title. I think they're going to be stripping Devin Haney, which is Devin Haney's supposed to be fighting Regis Prograis. Hearing that's going to be sometime in December. I don't know if that's accurate either. Hearing a lot of reports, but nothing's really been announced officially. So we're just going to have to kind of assume, play some hypotheticals here. Do you think that this is a good move? Do you think that Frank Martin's ready? A lot of people are saying Frank Martin's not ready. He shouldn't take this fight right now, but we all know he's 28 years old. And when you get these opportunities, if you pass them up, you never know when they're going to come back your way. Start with you, Base. What do you think about this? Do you think this is a fight that he should take, or maybe kind of put it off a little bit and get some more fights under his belt and hope that he'll be in this position again some other time later in his career?
I mean, quite frankly, at this point, he's as ready as he's gonna be. And the thing is, they've ordered him, but it's not like he was the first choice. Like, several people have turned down the opportunity. Usyk Cruz turned it down. Lomachenko turned it down. I'm sure that I think there was someone else as well. So I think Frank Martin ended up being like the fourth or the fifth person who was available on the list, out based on obviously like who doesn't already have fights scheduled for each other. So yeah, he's got to take, if he believes in himself. He's got what, 17 fights, 18 fights now?
18.
So yeah, 18. So it's not like he's a ranked novice. He beat Michel Rivera in his last second to last fight before the Harutian fight. So he's he's gone through various different styles. If he's not ready now, he's never gonna be ready. And ultimately you can't, I feel like it would be a bad look for him being, like I said, a 28-year-old and then like turning down the challenge from a 25, 26-year-old after you was trying to, go at a 22-year-old in Keyshawn Davis. So he's got to take that work ultimately. And I mean, like I said, I don't think he's necessarily gonna win, but he could upset the apple cart, and this is his moment to prove that he's as good as he and his supporters claim him to be. Go for it.
Yeah. So Lee, I think we all saw that Frank Martin was in a tough fight in his last fight, kind of struggled a bit, but he did really grind it out, bit down at his mouthpiece, and he got through it. It was a good learning experience. But would this be a type of situation where they're just throwing him to the wolves, or is this sink or swim for him at this point, being 28 years old? And again, I repeat, you never know when this may come around again.
Agreed. I agree with Base. Martin is about as ready as he'll ever be, because Stevenson appears to be a generational talent. And look at all the people who turned down fights with him. Some of them involve future Hall of Famers. Lomachenko's one. Future Hall of Famer turns down a fight. My guess is Top Rank would probably want that Stevenson versus Lomachenko to be a title unification down the road, them being under the Top Rank banner. But you're right. He's 28 years old. He is in the prime of his career. He's undefeated. It's 18-0, 12 knockouts. The combined record of his last 6 opponents is 122-9. So he's earned this opportunity. 3 of those opponents, Jerry Perez, Michel Rivera, and Harutian, were undefeated at the time that they fought Martin. Martin beat them all. He deserves to be where he is, and against just about anyone else, he'd be a real force to be reckoned with. He probably would beat some of those guys that turned down the Shakur fight. But against Shakur, if Shakur is on his game, he will beat Frank Martin. But for Martin to win, Shakur has to be off his game, either physically, mentally, maybe have problems making the weight, that kind of deal. Stevenson, since the Nakatila fight, he has made a concerted effort to step up his game. He stays within his boxing envelope, but he has injected more power and excitement. He's been scoring knockdowns. He's been scoring TKOs. He's sort of rounding into sort of a Pernell Whitaker kind of fighter, someone who is a stylist, but who can inject sneaky power every so often. He's also southpaw, Stevenson, which presents its own problems, and he has a high boxing IQ. I wouldn't be surprised if 3 years from now, Stevenson is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Yeah. Martin is good, but Stevenson has the look of being great. And Martin's got to shoot his shot, see what happens. Boxing is boxing. And like we said with the previous topic with Spence and Crawford, Spence is going to get to shoot his shot, see what happens. It's boxing.
Are they right, Danny? Is it time to just push all the chips right in the middle of the table and just let it ride?
Well, you have to. He's never had a title shot before, so it's not like he's got the privilege of being a former world champion or stuff like that. So, and unfortunately, in boxing, you can't pick who the champion is at the time. When you got people like, for instance, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Andre Ward champion, if you get your title shot, you can't pick your champion. You can't always get a Charles Martin or a Nikolai Valuev type champion. So, yeah, for him, it's Shakur Stevenson. But let's remember, Frank Martin does have skills himself. He does have quite good power. He has been touted recently as, a guy to look out for and a future world champion. He's 28 years old. He's had some good wins against proper opponents. So it's not like he's just got a lot of cherry-picked padded record. He's got a good record going into this. And, everyone is beatable on their day. Derek James, he's going to be up against Bomac again. So that'll be another little good dynamic that'll be coming out of this. So basically loves it. So, yeah, he's got to take the shot, really. I saw reports that Shakur Stevenson turned down $8 million to fight Devin Haney.
Really?
And that was coming from Shakur Stevenson's manager. That was on the Boxing Voice.
Really?
It's like $8 million. Wow. Shakur, because he said, why would we take 8 when next year we can get 16 for it? It's like, I don't really see that, but it is what it is. But yeah, Frank Martin, I'm looking forward to that fight. I think it's a good fight because skills-wise, Frank Martin probably could be the most skilled fighter Shakur's been in with thus far. So let's not sleep on Frankie. So yeah, I look forward to that fight.
Gotcha. So Oscar De La Hoya came out this week and said he plans to have Ryan Garcia return in November. And he said it's going to be a huge fight, very big fight. So I'm thinking to myself, well, there's a lot of people tied up right now at 140, right? Who could this huge fight be? Throw some names at me, Lee. What's out there for him, Ryan Garcia?
Okay.
Right?
So the operative word here is huge, right?
Okay.
So who would be the opponent who would qualify as huge in terms of public opinion and potential big money? Now, my guess is that this fight is going to take place at 140 since he complained about having to boil down to 136 and having limited rehydration and all that against Tank. So if we're looking at 140, the biggest star among the champs is Teofimo Lopez. He's a star. He brings money, and he has a belt. He's also a top-ranked fighter, and the proof is that Top Rank is asking the WBO to grant Lopez super champion status, which under the WBO rules allows him to skirt the usual rules regarding mandatory defenses. Now, since Garcia lost his last fight by KO, he certainly wouldn't qualify as a contender for Lopez's title. But if he is made the super champion by the WBO, that could clear the way for a Lopez Ryan Garcia fight. And especially if Top Rank and Golden Boy get past the streaming and the network and all this other stuff that usually makes complicated this across the street stuff. So, but what if it's not Teofimo? I say the next target will be Raleigh. Raleigh attracts a lot of eyes. He's got the WBA belt. And even if he can't get around the O'Hara-Davies situation and he's stripped of the title, it's still a big fight because you got Big Mouth versus Big Mouth. You got two social media guys who can draw, audiences beyond the boxing hardcores. But what if it's not Teofimo or Raleigh? The next guy could be Regis Prograis if the fight with Devin Haney doesn't come about. And finally, Garcia, I saw a post where he said he is on his vengeance arc, okay? Which to me is pretty specific. So who are the guys for which he needs to get revenge? Obviously, Tank is, because Tank's the only guy to beat him as a pro. But what about his amateur career? And I looked at BoxRec, his amateur record, and two names stand out. One is Devin Haney. They met 4 times as amateurs. Garcia won the first fight, but Haney won the next 3. And then the other name is Shakur Stevenson, who beat Garcia on points in the semifinals of the 2013 U.S. Junior National Selection Tournament. They never fought again. He lost to other guys in the amateurs, but if you're looking for star fighters for whom he wants to get revenge and they're in the weight range, it's Shakur or Devin. So there are possible names out there that could be. But boxing being boxing, we don't know. We can just guess.
So, Base, I thought that the WBA was supposed to order the O'Hara-Davies fight with Rolly Romero. What's going on with that? Why hasn't that been ordered? Do you have any news on that?
They did order it, but Rolly is claiming an injury. So they've asked him for proof. I don't know if it's been submitted yet, but they are pressing him for the proof. And O'Hara's team are pressing for the proof as well. So that's the reason why, even though he is the mandatory and it's kind of been ordered, it hasn't been enforced to purse bid yet because of that.
Do you think it would be possible that if he can't fight, that maybe it could be Ryan and Davies for like the interim title or something like that? You think that's a possible scenario?
Well, I put 140.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would accept it as his next fight back because he quit in the last one. Oh, you're talking about O'Hara-Davies, sorry.
Talk about O'Hara-Davies and Ryan Garcia. Could that be like for the an interim title? In other words, if Raleigh doesn't step to the plate or if he's out for an indefinite amount of time, could they just have that fight for the interim maybe, and then the winner of that could possibly get Raleigh, right?
Well, no, I think that they wouldn't allow it to be an interim just because they were the ones specifically who were told they have to limit all of these interim regulars and whatever belt. So in every division that they've got rid of like the regular or the interim champ, they can't bring it back. Is what I think the rule's supposed to be. That being said, they wouldn't. I don't think they would let Ryan fight O'Hara-Davies yet, because even though obviously they've signed O'Hara, they've signed him specifically just to target that belt. They want that belt first, then they would almost feed O'Hara to Ryan if that's how you're going to look at it. So
Gotcha.
it will be someone else. I can't think off the top of my head who it will be at this point in time. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone like if they bring up that Williams Zepeda or something like that from 135 after his fight, and just keep it in house and just put, you know, another Mexican fighter or something like that. Just bring someone up from like 135 up to 140 that's got a bit of a name on them at the moment.
Okay. So D-Star, we were just talking about how Oscar De La Hoya came out this week and said that he has a big plan for Ryan Garcia to return in November. He says he's got a huge fight. Who do you think that opponent could be? And I'm assuming it's going to be at 140.
Yeah, I think it'll likely be 140. That's interesting. I would love to give Oscar De La Hoya the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. He never quite gives us what we want most of the time, to be honest. And I'm assuming it'll probably be something like in-house. Not 100% sure who's available. Maybe a Jojo Diaz or something like that. I'm thinking along those lines. I don't think we're going to get like a mega like Raleigh fight. I don't think we're going to get some co-promotion, nothing like that.
Gotcha. Danny, who do you think is next for Ryan?
The one that stood out to me was Teofimo Lopez, because we know he's a free agent. So if Oscar could sign him, so Teofimo will be back on the zone, then that would be a fight that would be made. He's a champion. You know, he's just come off his another great career win against Josh Taylor with a belt. He's talking about, you know, he wants to take a bit of time off, and then now he's going after the big money and big contracts. So Oscar, you know, he needs to fill up his roster. So he might have to shell out to sign Teofimo up, and he's, you know, a Latino fighter who's complained about Top Rank favoring African American fighters, so then he could find a home in the Latino stable and make an in-house Latino fight with Ryan Garcia. And you've got Honduras versus Mexico. So hey, that sounds like a feasible fight to me. Any other fights? I can't think of any, because Devin's going to be fighting Prograis. Josh Taylor, he's just coming off a loss. The other 140s, yeah, that's not going to be huge. So for you to say the word huge, the only person I'm thinking of is Teofimo Lopez, unless they throw another name out, which isn't really huge. He's just saying it as just sound bites.
Well, Bob said that Teo is still under contract, and Teo is just talking crazy. But Bob also did say that he was entertaining that Ryan Garcia fight. That was something that they were looking at and something that they could pursue. So he's had a history of being able to work with Oscar, and he said there would be no problem working with Oscar if they were going to try to, move forward with that fight. So I think that could be a possibility, Ryan versus Teo. I think that's definitely a possibility if a mandatory is not ordered for Teo. I think that may be the fight, because Bob talked about it, and Oscar's saying something huge. I can't think of anything bigger right now, and Teo's like the only guy that's freed up, really. Everyone else is kind of tied up, right? Progress,
yeah.
Well, maybe not. Subriel Matias doesn't have anything lined up, but
they're not going to go in there.
He would be the most dangerous.
They're not going near him. He's too low reward for too much risk, I think. But it's a good fight, Lee. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad fight. It's a good fight, but it's not a good fight for him right now, I don't think.
No, not especially after getting crushed by Tank. No.
Yeah, it's a good fight, but it's too good of a fight for someone like Ryan Garcia right now. And as you just said, when you think about Bob Arum and Oscar De La Hoya was his favorite golden child back at Top Rank, because that was one of the many reasons that Floyd left, because he felt that Oscar was always being pitched above him. So yeah, Bob Arum has very good dealings and good relationship with Oscar. So that's something you could definitely work with if Teo is even still under contract with.
Okay.
Look, I just feel like his options are going to be a little limited. Like, I don't think Top Rank's going to let Teofimo go to the zone. I don't. And I think the zone is really going to pressure Oscar. Like, we want Ryan. He's under contract with you. we want him on the zone. I think that's his next fight's going to be on the zone, in my opinion. And that's the case. I think it's going to be more than likely a Golden Boy fighter. And if it's a co-promotion, I don't think it's going to be with somebody like Top Rank that's on ESPN, in my opinion.
So you think it's going to be more or less kind of like a softer touch to just kind of bring him back a little bit, nothing too tough, in other words.
I believe so, yeah. Oscar has an old school mentality. That's the old school way. When somebody gets beat like that, you don't throw him back out there with the Wolves.
Well, someone in the chat said it potentially could be Montana Love, but that's not actually a bad shout considering he hasn't boxed for a little while. He's still coming off of that DQ. It's not, but this is Oscar talking, isn't it? So
yeah, Oscar he always sensationalizes things. All right, so let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the big one that just happened this past weekend. Alexander Usyk took care of Daniel Dubois, got a 9th round stoppage, and there's a lot of different scenarios being played out there. What's next for Alexander Usyk? Eddie Hearn, Kali Sarlin saying they're going to petition the IBF to order the mandatory. Frank Warren's got a potential appeal in the works. And Frank Warren also went on record and said that they're talking to Usyk's team for Fury to fight Usyk in the first quarter of next year. So there's a lot of things swirling around, but nothing's really concrete here. Going to start with you, Danny. What do you think happens next? Do you think that Frank Warren is going to get any headway with this appeal with Dubois, or do you think that fight's the rematch that's off the table? How do you see this whole thing playing out with Usyk moving forward here?
Well, if you go through history, appeals never really amount to anything. It's just a good thing to do, that you show your fighter that you tried to fight his corner, you tried to appeal. But I don't think it's going to get much legs because Usyk, they're still trying to push this Tyson Fury fight, and Tyson Fury has probably looked at this fight now and thought, maybe I can do it. There's also the Filip Hrgovic mandatory, which is it's also going to get pushed up on Usyk. So yeah, I don't think Frank Warren's really going to be successful in this appeal, but I understand why he's doing it. He's doing right by his fighter. Don Charles is going to push for it, and Daniel Dubois is obviously feeling quite distraught. So I don't think the appeal's going to amount to anything.
Gotcha. So what do you think, D-Style? Does Team Dubois have any leg to stand on here? Do they deserve a rematch, or do you just think that WBA is going to kind of just push through and just kind of look away, and they're going to look at the big unification fight with Fury? That's where the money's at. I mean, that's what the sanctioning bodies usually go for, is the big fights, and this Dubois rematch would just probably get in the way. But again, they could still do it in December, and they could still do Fury in the first quarter of next year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Right. They can't squeeze both in there. What's your thoughts?
So a couple of things. It's kind of a weird position for Frank Warren, because if Fury ends up wanting to fight Usyk early next year, he's like kind of between a rock and a hard place. But we'll see how it goes with him. Now, I just want to make sure people understand, right? I personally, I don't want the rematch. I think it's highly unlikely Dubois wins the rematch. However, if you ask me, does he deserve a rematch based on what I believe happened in the fifth round? And I will not only say I believe, I will say objectively speaking, like if you look at the facts, that was a clean punch. All right. If you look at it objectively. All right. Now, I'm dying here. Somebody accused me of being because I keep hearing, it's all the Fury fans that are saying this. And I've been very critical of Fury for years on here. So unless I did that just so I could come out one day and pretend I'm not, I don't know. But all I know is this, okay? Look at the punch. This is a home run for me. When you look at Usyk at the weigh-ins, right, where he has just regular shorts on, you can see he, like most people, right, his elbows are higher than his belly button. All right? You could obviously see that. That's easy to see. Quite a few inches, actually. And when Dubois lands the punch, the trajectory, his elbow is centered around the punch. In fact, his elbow's covering the punch of Dubois. Now, Batista, that's because maybe he was leaning forward or he was blocking the shot, or Usyk is squared up, so we know he didn't lower the shoulder to block the shot. We know that. He's not leaning forward. He's not leaning forward to block the shot either. He's straight up. Usyk is standing straight up, which is why I believe the solar plex punch hurt him, right? When that punch lands. Nowhere near, it's almost impossible to say that landed below the waist. You could objectively see it was not below the waist, just based on the evidence you see there, right? Because it was around the elbow area. That's really all you need to say. And it's not a coincidence. Referees, right, that are retired now, like Joe Cortez, is coming out and saying that was a clean blow. Other refs, they don't like to speak out against referees. That's why they're going off record. But multiple referees have gone off record and said that was a clean blow. Many, all right? Longtime broadcasters like Jim Lambley have come out and said that was a clean blow. Multiple fighters, although I understand there's fighters on both sides, right, have come out and said that was a clean blow. Now, I keep hearing things like, well, I didn't touch skin. How's it going to touch skin when the trunks are too high? Oh, but Dubois' trunks were higher. It's irrelevant to the point, actually. Dubois is not the one that went down to a body shot and said it was low. The one that went down to a body shot and said it was low was Usyk, right? Objectively speaking, that punch was right in the solar plexus. It didn't hit the organs. It didn't hit the bladder. It didn't hit the balls. It hit none of that, okay? Now, did it raise his cup? It did. But if you land the blow in a clean area, that doesn't matter. That's your problem for wearing the trunks that high. That's not Dubois' problem. You want to wear the trunks that high? That is an issue you're going to deal with. It's the way it is, right? Now, this is not the first time Usyk has reacted this way to the shot right there, right on the money. It ain't the first time. It happened against Joshua, okay, and it happened in a cruiserweight fight. It's happened several times to this guy. He's soft to the body, and everyone wants to make an argument of technicality. Oh, below the belly button. First of all, it's not below the belly button. It's below the waistline. All right,
hip bones, top of the hip bones.
That's exactly what it is. The reason they want the fighters preferably to wear the trunks where the top of the trunks you could see the belly button, because it's easier to measure more or less where the punch landed. It's easier to do it. But if a fighter's upright and he has his elbow down, all right, and the punch is around the same trajectory as the elbow, you explain to me how the hell that shit was low. Somebody please explain to me. Explain to me why the shoulder isn't dropped to block the body shot. Explain to me why he's not leaning forward. Okay, but the elbow is in the same trajectory as the punch. Somebody please explain that to me. You can't do it. You just can't. It's objectively impossible. All right? I have analyzed it with the D-style eyes, and that's just the way it is. And for those wondering, why do you care, D-style? You a big fan of Dubois? I don't give a shit about Dubois. I'm not a fan. I already told you I don't even want to see the rematch, right? But it is a case that they could present, okay, to the sanctioning body, and it's a very real one that they could present at the end of the day. With that said, I think they could win. If the WBA is objective, they absolutely could get the appeal. There's no doubt about it, to at least get a rematch, right? It happens to be the right thing, but let me explain why I don't want to see the rematch. What happened in round 5 was what we were talking about last week. What were we saying?
Lottery ticket.
That's exactly what we're saying, right? We're saying he has a puncher's chance. Well, if he got his puncher's chance in round 5, it wasn't going to happen again. It's very unlikely it happens again. So all the people saying, well, it's his fault. He let him off the hook. Well, he got 4 minutes to recover. What do you mean? 4 minutes to give Fundora 4 minutes to recover against Mendoza. It's not Mendoza versus Tim Tszyu in October, okay? Give a lot of fighters 4 minutes to recover, all right? Give Lennox Lewis 4 minutes to recover after Rockman knocked him out. And guess what? He gets up and beats the shit out of Rockman for the rest of that fight, all right? It's just the truth. So We say punch his chance for a reason. Okay, we say for a reason. You tore up his lottery ticket, and then you scolded him because he didn't want to buy the lottery ticket anymore after a couple of rounds. Usyk is a superior fighter. It's almost unlikely he's going to land that punch again. It's unlikely he lands it again. And the reason he couldn't capitalize because Usyk's a superior fighter. Usyk wasn't letting him, right? That's what it was. He won the lottery, and they tore it up. That's what happened.
Okay. So, Dave, welcome, first of all. Great to have you back. It's been a while. Always great to have you on. We're talking about what's next for Usyk. Will Team Dubois get any luck with their appeal? Eddie Hearn, Callie Sarlin saying that they're going to petition for the IBF to have Hrgovic have his mandatory shot because he's the number one guy and he's been in that position for a while. He's fought so many eliminators. And also, Frank Warren's come out and said that they're talking to Usyk with Fury. First quarter, I should say, of next year. Where do you think this falls? Who gets the next shot? What ball gets taken out of the lottery there?
Well, first of all, I want to address that WBA appeal that Dubois is going to entertain, and we'll see how the WBA rules on it. But I don't have any confidence in the WBA. You guys can all go and read up on this lawsuit with Greg Cohen and the scandal on how the WBA is participating in paid-for ranking system. So go out and read that Greg Cohen lawsuit. But on the other hand, the WBA did something interesting this year, and we've all had our share of PD stories this year on our podcast, and they did rule in favor of not only taking the title from this DR fighter who had just gotten a belt at 140 pounds. I can't even remember his name. He only had it for one fight, and then he was caught on enclomiphene, a fertility drug. They did take his title away, and that's essentially how Raleigh Romero got an opportunity to get the title at 140. So I don't have complete faith in the WBA doing the right thing, but then we could be surprised. Will it have an outcome on him getting a rematch with Usyk? I doubt it 100%. You know, my feelings on the Usyk low blow situation was when he saw that Pabon was going to gave him the low blow, he took full advantage of it, and the wind was completely knocked out of it. Now, had they started counting up to the count of 10 and he'd been ruled a knockdown, I think Usyk would have got up really quickly, whether he was ready or not. And then we really would have seen what kind of champion he is. D-Style made an interesting point about being soft in the midsection. I think his jump to cruiserweight, it's really clear that he doesn't take these super heavyweight punches to the body very well. And I don't think it'll bode well when he finally does meet Tyson Fury, hopefully, as you just pointed out, in the first quarter of next year. In between then, I will not be surprised if the negotiations fall apart and unravel unless there's a tremendous, like just a purse we've never seen. And I'll leave that up to the Saudis if they'll be able to put up that purse to get these two guys to fight for undisputed. I think in the meantime, it's very likely we'll see another mandatory defense like Hrgovic, who I think didn't beat Salil Zhang personally and doesn't deserve that shot. But I probably will favor that Usyk is going to fight another mandatory and these negotiations will fall apart again.
Okay. Lee, where do you think this falls?
Well, you know the old saying, when money talks, everything else walks. And if the rumor mill comes true, and there could be a giant doubleheader in Saudi Arabia that would put Usyk and Fury as well as Wilder and Joshua. I don't know if there's enough money in the world to pay all those guys to fight on the same night. Pay-per-view is probably going to be $150. If that comes to pass, that is going to take precedence, right? But if Usyk and Fury doesn't happen, and frankly, I don't think it will because Usyk just fought and Fury is supposed to fight Ngannou in late October, that's a pretty quick turnaround for both guys based on today's standards. Then I believe Usyk will be ordered to face Hrgovic, his IBF mandatory. Smitty and I had Usyk's manager, Aegis Klimas, on our podcast a few months ago, and he said that absent a Fury fight, he would have to face Dubois and then Hrgovic. And now that Dubois has been taken care of, Hrgovic should be next in line. Now, if the question is still open, here's what I'd like to see. Hrgovic will be presented a 7-figure step-aside offer with the promise that he would get first crack at the winner of Usyk and Fury. Now, if I were Hrgovic, I'd take that deal because you're getting paid nicely not to fight, and then you'll make another big payday by fighting the undisputed heavyweight champion instead of a three-belt champion in Usyk. Will it happen? Probably not, because that scenario makes too much sense, and we all know that common sense in boxing doesn't line up. But as far as the low blow is concerned, it's a great debate. Personally, I think if the protective cup is the equator, the punch landed around the Gulf of Mexico. It wasn't egregiously low, but it was kind of low. It wasn't not egregious. It was borderline, whatever. D-Style gave a very good and detailed explanation as to where the geography lies. But we got to remember that aside from that incident in round 5, Usyk comprehensively outboxed Dubois, and Dubois ended up going down in the 8th during his best round. By the way, he was winning round 8 until he was floored in the final seconds, turning a potential 10-9 Dubois round into a 10-9 Usyk round. And then in round 9, he gets stopped by a shotgun jab to the face. Not exactly the greatest scenario when it comes to possibly building a rematch if he wins his protest and a rematch is ordered. How are you going to sell that? Is it going to make the money to justify, the investment? So my guess is, the standard is, if there was no overturning of a result from the first Lennox Lewis Evander Holyfield fight, the draw, if that fight isn't going to be overturned, this fight is not going to be overturned, and because of the money dynamics that are in play right now, I think that we saw with the WBA how Ismael Barroso was screwed, right? That nothing happened of it. Nothing happened. So I don't expect anything to happen here. I think that the big money is out there. They're going to do their best to make the big money fight happen. And Dubois is going to be shuffled off to the side.
Okay. Base, do you want me to play that first before we go? All right, let me see if I can screen share this. Thank you for sending me this. 1 second here. Okay. Let me try to screen share this. Okay, share screen.
This is just for anyone claiming that Usyk wears either his trunks or his protector high.
Can you see it, everybody?
Yeah.
Let me try. You can see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit small, but if you can play it one more time for us.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically,
keep in mind. All right, good. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no, the reason I sent this was everyone says his trunks are high or his guard's high. As soon as he breathes outwards, this is after the shot, you can clearly see his navel pop out of the top of his protector, like a good 2 inches outside of it. And there you can see it literally sitting right at the top of the protector. So for anyone claiming that he wears his trunks high, or that's the reason why the shot itself was on the waistband and was therefore not deemed an illegal shot, you need another defense. That's just, if we're talking about objective, which is the word that D-Style used earlier, that's objective proof right there as to where his navel sits. So I think the correct term was really subjectively.
Yeah, but objectively, he was pulling him down when he was in the ground doing his Oscar performance. He was going
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was. Like, what do you mean? You can adjust your trunks by moving your hips, brother. What are you talking about? Yes, you can.
But Base, this is what happens. To be fair, if you watch a fight, what happens is that waistband's constantly moving. It's not gonna stay in one spot. He went like this and stretched. He had to pull it. He went like this. So watch this base. If I go watch what my thing is. Now watch this.
I mean, I don't really want to watch
That's what
that.
I just
But...
did.
See, there you go, bro. Let me just show.
Base.
Can I just share
I mean,
something
no.
really quick?
All I gotta do is
No, you see, because
I think
the thing is, I find it weird. I didn't interrupt or talk when anyone else was
This is
talking,
Base's
but
fault,
yeah, I
by the
got
way,
four
that beat
people
the
like jumping over me when I'm having my say.
But Base, you saw
I
what
didn't
just
see
did.
what you done because that was egregious to my eyes. I don't want to see it. Like whatever you're doing,
That's
stop.
Base's fault. It's Base's fault that is happening right now.
See what I just
Like,
did? Now watch.
I know. That's like we're not here for that.
No, but Base is right. Let him go. Let him go.
That's
you just saw Usyk do it. I mean, I have a better body than him.
that's your opinion and you're entitled to it, but I don't want to see it.
I mean, objectively speaking, probably not.
A lot of women say that, but go ahead, finish.
Try throw me off my train of thought. My point was to be like, okay, there have been several referees that have said that there's some that have said yes, it was kind of border. There's some that said it's based on the referee's interpretation. There's a lot of people that said it's a borderline shot, so it's at the referee's discretion whether he deems it low or not. Harvey Doc said that very much. So, you know, we pointed at Joe Cortez, who's been retired for about 30 years. I'm being facetious here. Jack Reese is the same ref. I mean, I like Jack Reese, but Jack Reese is the same referee that gets slammed almost every couple of months about bad decisions. He made some terrible decisions in that KSI versus Logan Paul the fight. Everyone still criticizes the Tyson Fury 10 count from the first Wilder fight. I like Jack Reese, but so we're saying that there's questionable stuff there. Most people around the boxing fraternity say Harvey Doc's probably one of the best young referees we have. He said the shot itself, it definitely was borderline. He couldn't say that it was clean, but ultimately for him, it was subjective to whether or not the referee chose to give it low or not. He wouldn't have a complaint either way. That's what he said. So with regards to that, there's absolutely no chance this appeal is going to get off the ground because it's not conclusive enough in any way, shape or form as to how much of the shot was above or below the pelvis, the pelvic hip bones, as is where we claim the new line is, seeing as a lot of people don't want to say below the navel anymore. But in real time, no, you cannot, because I didn't interrupt you. So with regards to that now, in my opinion, it's not going anywhere. Ultimately, they're going to move on with whatever else plan that they've got. Dubois is not going to get another shot up until any of those belts become fragmented and become vacant, and Frank can maybe lobby him into a position. In this time, he had his big moment, and he chose not to grasp it with both hands. And as I had said in another video previously, with regards to this whole situation, ultimately, I think a lot of it is his own doing, is his own fault for all the interviews he'd done prior to the fight, saying how he was gonna be dirty, he was gonna rough up Usyk. He's this little cruiserweight. If I got to headbutt him, if I got to use my knees, if I got to use elbows by any means necessary, you put that kind of energy into the atmosphere, it ends up being a boy that cried wolf scenario. If the shot itself was in fact legal, well, you put so much out there saying you was going to be dirty, you've colored the referee's opinion, so you're not going to get anything out of it, unfortunately. That's kind of what I want to say. D-Star, please, now you can retort.
Well, just really quick, so I'm going to share this really quick, okay, since we're sharing screens. Hold on, my bad. If you look at this picture, I know it's an old picture, but it hasn't changed in terms of, look at his belly button. Look how high his elbow is. So if his shoulder's not dropping, he's not leaning down, he's straight up when he blocks the shot, right? And Dubois' glove is just right below his elbow, right? If he bends that elbow, how in the hell is that anywhere near the waist area? It's actually, it would be hitting actually right in the solar plexus, which is a legal punch. The reality is
solar plexus. The solar plexus is literally just below the chest and just in the middle of the first two abs. That's where your solar plexus is, not down the bottom.
Near the solar plexus. What I'm saying.
No,
you said it was in the solar plexus.
It landed
where the belly button and just like a little bit just below, so it landed in that gut area.
Okay.
You see that area? Don't you know why it hurt? You see, those who have fought or sparred or taken a body shot, you know, when you get even a six pack, those last two abs at the bottom are the hardest ones to get, and that's where you're most vulnerable. So that's where he's the most weakest, and that's why it affected Usyk so much. That's why he did the theatrics on the floor, doing the hand trembling, praying to God with the Jesus cross signs. He was done. He was toasted. He was not going to beat the 10 count. Hitting a waistband, remember, your waist, unless you're having sagging pants like you're in some rap video, then that's not a low blow to me. If you hit a waistband, that's good.
Can I say something real quick?
Well, no, let me just finish this point. Base, can you explain to me, if he bends the elbow, it's higher? Is it or is it not higher than the belly button?
If he bends forward?
It just goes like this, you know. Just if he lifts his elbow like this. Because when he was straight up, he tried to block it, but his shoulders are straightened out. Like, it's not like one is lower than the other because he lowered it to block it or nothing like that. He's literally squared up when he has the elbow like this. So what I'm trying to get at is the following. Okay, forget about the semantics of it. Can you not see that the elbow is higher than the belly button? Okay, so when you see him with the trunks on, and the trunks are almost at the same elevation, the top of the trunks, as where his elbows are, right? How could you not objectively see that the trunks were? That's what you can use to measure how high the trunks were.
That's not really an effective measurement. But if you want to find an effective measurement, Chris Andre did a brilliant video on it earlier on today. He's got stills of all of those shots. He actually shows you where the suggested lines are for each pot. So click on his video, give him a watch.
But first of all, the Harvey Doc can't tell you if it's low or not. Referees can't do that. It's against the law. They can't do that. They'll go off record with you and explain to you the rules, but they can't tell you one way or the other. So it's like tennis. Johnny Nelson said this perfectly, so did Maestro. All that has to happen is the part of the glove has to touch the belt line. And when you say the word borderline is legal. That's not low. If you're saying it's a borderline shot, technically it's legal. Jack Reese said that. So borderline shots are legal. So if you look at where the hip bone is, it's at least 2 inches below his belly button. There's zero. I'm going to just say it, and you're right, Base. The referee made the decision. We have to live with it. We have to live with it. And the likelihood of this getting overturned, slim to none. But I can 100% unequivocally say that was a clean shot. And referees that you talk to, and they won't go on the record, 5 of them have already said that's a clean shot. They won't go on the record because they can't. They can't judge another referee's work while you're active. You can't do it. But again, we're not going to change our mind. You're not going to change our mind. But the problem is that the interpretation of the rule is not correct. The belly button is irrelevant because everyone's belly button is different. Usyk has a very high belly button. His belly button's like 2 inches from his hip bone. Most people's is like an inch, right? And when you look at it, it does the top of the glove does hit the flesh. The top knuckle does. And when you watch the punch, it does. If you go back and look, I have it. I saw it. I have it. It does. It does hit the flesh. This top knuckle right here. And then when you look, and the knuckle part of the glove has to go above the belt line. The knuckle part. And Jack Reese also said the majority of the glove, or even half the glove, he said as long as the glove is touching it, like tennis, if the ball touches the line, it's in. Just touches the line, it's in. That's how this rule is interpreted. 5 referees said the same exact thing.
So if that's how the rules interpreted, why would they then say, "Oh, well, we'd still warn you to keep it up"? So if it's touching the line, then it doesn't matter.
They're telling you if you go lower, it's going to be a foul. Don't go any lower than what you're going. That's why they
No,
tell you
they say keep the punches
No,
up.
Jack,
They don't
no,
they don't say that's fine. Oh yeah, keep going. Otherwise, he wouldn't say anything. Why
No,
would you
Jack
warn
Reese-
someone
Jack
if
Reese
you're
said it.
doing a legal
Jack
tactic?
Reese said it. Go watch the DAZN
Jack Reese
interview.
I watched it. He contradicted himself in that exact same that
Base.
conversation.
Base.
Watch it again. He contradicted himself from the
9
start
out
of that
10
interview to
I'm
the
just
end.
telling you right now, Base. We've shown you several fights where tons of shots have been landed there. I've seen several knockouts. Amir Khan knocked out Zab Judah. Crawford knocked out Khan. Ward knocked out friggin'
Kovalev.
Kovalev that way. This if you
Charlo
watch,
with banana.
Go watch Devin Haney versus Lomachenko. I counted 20 shots landed in that same area. Nothing's gonna change, but you have to. Well, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But the reality of the situation is this: 9 out of 10 referees are counting him. I will be on my deathbed, and you can come up to me when I got tubes in me, and I will tell you 9 out of 10 referees are counting him. I'm just telling you, 9 out of 10 referees are counting him, and we have the empirical data to suggest that. We can reel off if that belt line is illegal, right? Then Chavez and Trinidad would have so many disqualifications on their record right now.
And Floyd.
I'm just telling you, and Floyd, because Floyd constantly would jab people on that belt line.
Look at even Charlo versus Rosario.
You got to be objective here.
Charlo versus
I am being objective. I don't think like you guys are, but it's cool.
Can you explain why a punch?
Can I ask you an honest question, Base?
Yeah, go for it.
Would the majority of referees have called that legal? Yes or no?
Maybe. I don't know the majority of referees to give you the answer.
What you've
But
seen from all the fights we've shown you and from all of the examples we've given you, do you have enough empirical data to support that most referees would have called that legal?
I would say there's a good chance that a good selection of referees would. However, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. Seeing as we're going to do this, and you can, and this is just yes or no, right?
I'll answer it. Yep.
Cool. All right. So, 40-mile-an-hour road on speed limit, yeah, on the road. If you drive 70 miles an hour on that road, are you breaking the law? Yes or no?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. So if you drive that road 20 times and you are driving at 70 on the 40, you're breaking you've never been pulled over anything, but you're breaking the law, right? Okay. So if you then get pulled up on that on one occasion, do you have any excuse? Do you have anything to say, oh, I'm innocent, or are you still breaking the law?
Breaking the law. Okay.
So just because 9 out of 10 referees may have allowed those shots, it doesn't necessarily mean that it makes it correct. True or false?
It does, Base, and I'll tell you why it does.
Why?
Because it's above the hip bone.
Yes, and what I will say,
the hip bone, Base.
You see this word borderline everyone's throwing around as a new little buzzword. Do you know what a border? No, do you know what? Yeah, because do you know what the word borderline means? It means you're at the border. It means if you are at El Paso, Texas, you're at the borderline. So someone may say, "Hey, you're at the borderline now. Don't go any further, or you'll be crossing that line." That's why they'll say, keep them up a bit, because then that way you're less likely to stray low. But you're at that borderline. You're at Tijuana. You're in Tijuana now. You're at Calais. You're at Calais now. So you're at the borderline. But borderline, you cannot get arrested for. You cannot get penalized for being at the borderline. So people talk about, oh, it's borderline. Stop using these little fancy little.
Borderline still means legal. Borderline is still legal.
Just like even something. One sec, D-Star. Even if something is morally wrong, for instance, you have a 45-year-old man. He ends up, having some relations with a 16, 17-year-old. Morally, it's wrong. It's borderline. It's borderline, but it's still legal.
Still legal. It's like when that 10-second knock goes off. That's telling you the round's coming to an end, but you just can't stop fighting because you heard that knock. You have 10 seconds left to go.
You're at the borderline of the round.
I just want to ask this question: do you have a good explanation why a punch just under the navel should be illegal?
because there's still belly there.
No, I'm asking basically, why should it be illegal?
Oh, illegal.
Because that's what the rule is. Like once you hit into the area where the bladder is and that lower part of the stomach,
But the
which
bladder's
is the
not
part,
right below the belly button.
didn't say it was, but in that particular area between where that navel is and where those hip bones are, the bladder is housed there. So is other like softer tissue. Hence why you have the guard there in the first place. If it was just about nut sacks and things like that, you would only have a cup. They give you the whole groin guard and the protector for a specific reason, because that part of the body requires more protection than the rest of you. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it. That's why it's there. That's why you're not supposed to punch on the protector. If you hit the protector, then that's supposed to be an illegal shot.
That's not true.
In the amateurs,
here's
that's
the
the same
problem.
in the amateurs, and it's the same in the pros.
That's not true.
Amateurs just wear a cup. Amateurs just wear a cup.
Here's the problem with it. Hold on, Beep.
I gotta get this in. I
had to respond. I asked the question, bro. Let me get this in real quick. All right, go ahead.
You ask why that waistband is there. You don't want to know why the majority of the main reason why that is. It's called the groin guard. The reason why that is in there is so the cup doesn't move. Because if you don't have that band there, that cup's flying all over the place. Am I right, Danny?
Yep, because in the amateurs, we just wear a cup where there's no protection around the waist and the hips. But when you get into the pros, they wear the groin guard, and especially it's mainly used in training. That way you don't get injured. People wear it high so they don't get broken ribs and things like that. It's a groin guard. It's not a belly guard. It's not a rib guard. It's not a. It's a groin guard. That's all it is, and it's because it's made heavier. That way, it's less likely to move around because it's heavier. It's made with more quality leather.
Band is for stability. That band is for stability, so that doesn't move around, base. I'm just telling you. But go ahead. I'm sorry, D-Style. I sincerely apologize. I just had to get that.
I got you. Look, a lot of women fighters don't wear it, bro. Why do you think that is? I had several female fighters tell me I don't even bother wearing that thing. Several.
And what thing?
There's a reason for that. So, they don't wear the band, bro. They don't even wear a cup.
Yeah.
Did you wear a pair of shorts? A lot of them.
The band's for comfort, base.
Like what I'm saying is, Beeb, excuse me. What I'm saying is this, okay? All this stuff that's being put out there, it's because of the organs, or right? There's organs all over the body. All right, like the brain it's like floating inside our brain. Like if you don't want organs to get hit, just ban the whole sport at that point. All right, it's not about that. If that was the case, like if something really bad happens to you when you get kicked, or I just gave out what I was going to say. But if you get hit right under the belly button, right? If that was the case, it would be illegal to kick there in MMA, right? It would be completely legal. Very rarely do I see a stoppage in MMA because a dude gets kicked right under the belly button. Very rarely, and they kick each other there all the time. Kicks are a lot harder than punches, right? Like a lot harder, right? In MMA, groin shots are illegal specifically, and the pubic area, which is where the bladder is, right? So that I agree 100% should be illegal. But somehow the waist went to the belly button over time, right? And the reason the belly button is the line, and they call it borderline, is because there's a lot of surface area on a boxing glove. A boxing glove has a lot of surface area. So the idea is that if any part of the glove is hitting around the belly button area, it's not low enough to be under the waist. That's the idea behind it. That's why they say the belly button. All right.
The knuckle part of the glove that has to land. They're concerned about the knuckle part of the glove, not the bottom part of the glove. It's the knuckle part.
No, but that's all I want to say.
Yeah. No, but Base, obviously, we always respect your opinion. We're not here to change your mind. But the problem is the interpretation of the rule has been said so incorrectly. And it's just, and the referee has plausible deniability. He made the call. If the WBA says he's our referee, we're standing by what he says. All this discussion means nothing. What my concern is moving forward, though, I don't want to see the scoring zone shrunk. I don't want fighters to be able to just touch their fucking waistband and be able to referee their own fights. I don't want people to fight certain fighters and then they just touch their waistband and they hop around and then they get the benefit of the doubt. I'm looking at the big picture here. D-Style once said to me, boxing's limited by design. Why limit it even more? That's all I'm saying.
Joe, quick question for you before we move on, because that's cool, and I'm happy to obviously move on, and we have our opinions on how it's been implemented.
This is no attack on you, Biggs.
No, I know that. It's fine, but here's my issue: the Jared Anderson fight, right? You know, when it's like automatically, then it's almost like they said, "No, you best clean it up and make sure that doesn't happen again." So the referee there literally says, "Here is fine." And he points above the line, above the waistband for both guys. You can work here, down here is illegal. So then the fact that he then doesn't call any of those shots that were borderline or a lot lower, then
he's wrong.
So as you said, the application of the rule is the problem. So even if, for instance, Pabon, let's say for instance, Pabon was the correct one in that particular situation, but he maybe did get it slightly wrong because there was enough contact to just above blah blah blah. Well, when you've got another referee that's literally disregarding his own rules, you can't really say anything about Pabon at that point, because we've then just seen something where another guy has literally done the total opposite more egregiously throughout the entire fight. True or false?
True, but I'll tell you something where Pabon really screwed up. That referee,
by not establishing it.
But also in the WBA rules, it literally says that if the referee is supposed to instruct the fighter to position that guard under the navel, it's right in the rules. He didn't even do that. I'm not nitpicking here. I'm really not.
No, he didn't. You're right. He didn't.
He didn't. So you're 130% right. That referee established his belt line and he didn't follow it. But what really kills Pabon here is he didn't establish his belt line. And again, I'm really going into a rabbit hole here, but I believe he didn't establish the belt line because he wanted to give himself plausible deniability during the fight. And that's a conspiracy theory. That's my opinion. That's the only reason why I can come up with why he didn't do it. And then he's in the corner. And then he's I listened to those pre-fight instructions. And you know what he was telling Daniel Dubois? I don't want you to worry about those tens of thousands of people in there that are going to be cheering against you. I know that's going to, that can be a distraction. I want you to just focus on me. In my opinion, you know what he's doing there? He's doing a little projection there. Maybe he's the one that's concerned about the crowd, and he's concerned about how they're going to react if he makes the perceived wrong move. Why do you think he said? And again, I'm not trying to really get on the referee, but he made sure he was okay, because if he wasn't okay and that blow was perceived low and he sent them back out there and then he was to possibly hurt him or stop him after that, he doesn't want the crowd to be like, oh, the only reason why he stopped him is because he hit him with the low blow first. He doesn't want that crowd to go out of control. These are all things that I'm putting together that are 100% opinion. And that's why this looks a little bit weird to me. But at the end of the day, it's his decision. And if the WBA decides we're going to stand by his decision, there's nothing we can do. But my one concern is this: I just don't want the scoring zone to be shrunk, and I don't want fighters to be able to officiate their own fights. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just really quick. The one thing I do agree with 100% with what Base is saying is, look, where the ref establishes the line, takes precedence over everything, right? If the ref says it's right here, it doesn't matter what I think, what anybody. The ref already established to both fighters in front of them, right? This is the line right here. Anything below this is a foul. I don't care where he puts his hand, right? If he shows both fighters, that takes precedence over everything. However, I do think there needs to be uniformity in the sport. Like there needs to be uniformity. I don't think it should be 100%. There's always going to be some ref discretion, but it shouldn't always be 100% ref discretion. I think every fight we should be able to at the very least see the belly button, right? That's number one. And I do think that if they decide it's under the belly button tomorrow and they say, okay, that's the line, whatever. Okay, I don't agree with it, but if that's what they say and it's across the board, okay, fine. I'll go with it. But as from what I understand, it's below the hip bone as of right now. Okay, but the referee, if the referee says, wherever the referee says, it does take precedence over everything. And also, I don't mind being corrected. Base is right. The solar plex is not. I thought it was like a little lower than that, but it's okay at the end of the day. But it was still a legal shot in my opinion.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say, the weekend just gone there was a lot of fuss about heavyweight body shots. Now we've been recently moaning about these modern heavyweights don't know how to work on the inside. They don't throw body shots, but now it doesn't. I don't want it to become a thing where heavyweights get put off throwing body shots, because we've seen in the Dubois Usyk fight, the Gerard Anderson fight, and then obviously F.A. Ajagba versus Kosoboski fight. So I don't want it to become a thing where heavyweights are like, let me just throw the little 1-2 and the little haymaker, and they don't work on the inside, because that's what we're complaining about. Guys like Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, they was all good at working on the body, but now it seems this past weekend we're moaning about heavyweights working to the body. So let's not start making that a presidency in the future.
I'm concerned about it, Danny. I'm really concerned about it. I don't want the sport to be overly officious. I don't want a fighter to be just going like this all day, touching his fucking waistband, and then the referee just stops. It's like watching a basketball game, and every 3 seconds someone blows a whistle. I don't want that to happen. I'm being 100% legitimate here. I don't care about I care about Dubois, but I don't care if he's. I want to see Fury versus Usyk. That's what I want. I want the best heavyweight of all time to get all the belts. That's what I want. I'm not. I mean, we all know Usyk's the better fighter. I'm trying to look ahead here. That's what I'm concerned about. That's all I'm concerned about. And one last thing, Danny, isn't it horrible to wear that protector up high? Because every time you get hit on that band, what does it do? It pulls up the fucking cup, and it hurts your nuts even more. So these guys think by pulling it up high, they're giving themselves extra protection. They're not, because by pulling it up high, all you're doing is pulling the bottom of the bottom of the cup on your sack.
It restricts your breathing, because when you go to sit down on your stool, it's horrible. That's why when George Groves, you see how he fights all hunched over. This is why he blows a lot, because he fights so dynamic. But then when you're leaning over, crouching over, like David Haye and George Groves, you are compressing your organs. So then that way you're getting yourself more tired.
Fucks up your breathing like crazy. That's why another thing too, Base. If you notice, a lot of times in the corner, you'll see trainers push the trunks down and they'll pull the cup forward, and so that guy can breathe. So I mean that thing's going to move constantly throughout the course of the fight. It just is. All right, let's move on now. That's enough. All right, let's get to the other big fight this weekend. This is a fight that I'm actually really interested in, and I think this is a big fight over in the UK. It seems like there's some buzz around it from what I've seen. And this is the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith rematch. Is this going to be repeat or revenge? We'll start with you, Mr. Groves.
All right, I'm muting. What people tend to forget about the first fight was that Eubank was boxing pretty well in the first 3 rounds before Smith stopped him in round 4. Now, Eubank said he lost because of a stray elbow, but most people, including me, thought that was rubbish. He simply got caught. And also Eubank has hired Bud's trainer, Brian McIntyre, as his new chief second. And that could be a smart move, I think, because when Eubank had Roy Jones Jr. in the corner, Eubank tried his best to fight like Roy, because Roy was Eubank's hero. And that sort of took away from his own game. So perhaps with McIntyre in the corner, he'll fight more like himself, which is always a good thing. But will that be enough? Will the corner change be enough to change the scenario? I think we're going to find that out in the first 3 or 4 rounds, because that's when the pattern of most fights are established. And Smitty and I had veteran broadcaster John Rawling on the show a few weeks ago.
That's awesome.
And he told us that of the 4 Smith brothers, Liam is the hard one. He is the hardest one. And I agree. Liam is rugged. He's aggressive. He's a terrific body puncher. He knows what he is, and he believes in his game, and he sticks with it no matter what. And I believe that Eubank may box his way to an early lead, He's longer, he's taller, and he did outbox him in the first 3 rounds. But I think that Smith is going to cut the distance, and once he starts working over that body, and hopefully his punches won't stray low, I think that once he establishes that body attack, Eubank's gas tank is going to erode over time. I think that Smith will pile up enough points to win on points, and fairly comfortably 8-4 perhaps 8-4, maybe even 7-5. It'll be a better fight, but I see Smith winning this one.
So no knockout.
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Shout out to Champsy with the $5 super chat. He says updated heavyweight rankings. He has the best heavyweight that ever laced gloves on at number 1, Tyson Fury. He has Andy Ruiz at number 2, and he has Usyk at number 3, Wilder at number 5. Wilder at number 4, and Zhang number 5. Where's Joshua? And he has Big Andy is currently the only real threat to Fury. I'll have to respectfully disagree with you. I think Usyk is definitely number 2, and you could do a coin flip between Joshua.
You need to apologize for saying Fury is the best of all time, but
I'm sorry, he's the best that ever lived. But okay, so base, does Eubank have a shot here? Because I'm not hearing like the odds are crazy. Like this is a pick 'em fight, in Vegas, right? But everyone's like going with Smith. What am I missing here? Because I actually think Eubank's going to win. I'm probably like one of the very few that think Eubanks is going to win this one. What are your thoughts here?
I haven't made my final prediction yet. I need to see the weigh-in tomorrow.
Okay.
There
so you
are
think
some.
It's a tight one, right? It's a tight one.
I don't necessarily think it's tight. Like at the moment, I'm still kind of heavily favored towards Liam Smith. But
okay.
The one issue that I have in that thinking is that the fight was postponed because of him and a back injury.
Okay.
And those injuries, especially when it comes to the back, the way he like tucks up and does a little bit of pendulum motion from time to time, hunches down. If he does an explosive movement, like how will it affect his mobility? That's one thing. Then also on the other side, you've got Bomac, who couldn't do anything for Amir Khan, but maybe just the actual presence of him being there and feeling like you're in the gym with someone like Terence Bud Crawford just might do just spur him on, and maybe I feel like he's gonna go for broke a bit more, which means he could end up catching Smith with something a lot cleaner than he did in the first fight. But then are the demons still there? So to me at the moment, I haven't decided, but I am still slightly leaning towards Liam Smith unless the scales tell me something different tomorrow or today, I should say.
So if he looks like, if Eubank looks emaciated on the scale, then that's going to be a red flag for you.
Yeah, if he looks emaciated, then it's repeat and arguably around about the same time, maybe 1 or 2 rounds later.
Okay, gotcha. I forgot about the back injury because those things do linger. That's definitely those are lingering injuries without a question. All right, Danny, is this going to be a shootout, or is this going to be similar to the first fight? Is it going to be different? Is Eubank going to be a little bit more cagey this time around? How do you see this one playing out, man?
I think Eubank's going to be a bit more gung-ho. That's the way he's been talking. I think that also a good point you brought up, Base, about the back injury, because Liam, he looks a lot older than he is. His body's probably older than he is. And if Eubank comes in with his old physicality way, where he proper bores in and starts throwing uppercuts and proper gets rough with him and starts moving his body around, little herky-jerky, sudden whiplashing movements around the hip and back area will aggravate his back, as we've seen what happened to Darren Barker in his world title fight, what kind of took him out quite quickly. Yeah. So it's probably the best bet for Eubank to take it to Liam and make the fight physical, push his back on the ropes and lean him over it, like proper just rough him up and get busy. And someone like Terence Crawford and Bomac and Shakur Stevenson, that gymnasium where they've got the wrestling part in that gym, they will probably had words with him and talked to him about things like that. I think it looks like he's doing the weight better this time, Eubank, but I still do think that he probably might need to move up to 168 at some point, probably after this fight, because I still don't think it's a good omen to be at that weight so long. One thing I am worried about is that I noticed that, because I'll have Eubank on Snapchat, I noticed he was at a lot of pool parties in Vegas during the build-up. And I noticed that he wasn't in the gym with Terence Crawford while Terence Crawford was training for this fight. So it's like Bomac only kind of said to him, yeah, you can come into the gym and I'll start training you properly once this fight's over, because, you know, maybe they didn't see Eubank as that serious, and Bomac just seeing us as another nice little check, the same way he saw Amir Khan as a nice little extra check whilst Bud's having his, you know, doing his whole big parade, because, you know, you still got to make a living. So I'm not sure how serious Bomac takes someone like Eubank Jr. at this stage of his career, because Eubank looks like he's on, you know, celeb mode, as his dad has alluded to, which I think does have a lot of truth in it. I don't think he's that dedicated. I don't think he lives the life as Paul Smith, who I interviewed out in Poland. And I agree with Paul. That's the older brother who fought Andre Ward. So it's how, and I think pride will get Eubank through it. I still have Liam Smith as a slight favourite, but if he does win Liam Smith, I think it'll be on point, because I think pride will get Eubank through it. And then once he's in the that gym with Bomac and Terence and stuff, and just like it helped Amir Khan, even though it didn't help his skills or anything, it gave his legs and that self of durability, where he was able to take Kellsbrook shots. Whereas I say a couple of years ago, Kellsbrook would have wiped him out, but somehow Khan was able to still stay on his feet. So I think Eubank will stay on his feet and probably lose on points. But if he does rough up Liam Smith properly and work his back and his hips and his body, and something in his body has broken down Liam, then we can see a RTD / stoppage via injury kind of in that fight for Eubank.
So Johnny Nelson wasn't just blowing smoke when he said he heard some things going on in the training camp with Eubank. He was telling the truth, basically, saying that there's some funny things going on in the camp, and it wasn't all, you know, roses in the camp with Bomac. He was saying that basically there was like issues with sparring and that they weren't really training like they should be.
I don't think that Eubank was training. No, he was at pool parties all the time and partying.
So you're verifying this. You're verifying what Johnny Nelson was saying, basically.
Yeah, I saw it, and what it is,
we've got visual footage of this. We've got pictures of some of our people at pool parties with him. So
this is good. This is good information for people who want to bet on this fight. They need to know these things.
Yeah, we've got people who taken pictures with him at pool parties, and I saw him at multiple pool parties. Not even the one that our people was taking pictures with. He's a raving lunatic right now. I know back in the day he used to like to go to the Afrobeats clubs and get a lot of girls with big booties. I know that was his thing, but now he's on this proper.
A lot of honey dips.
Yeah. Oh, he loves the honey dip. Oh, he loves it. But now he's on this living la vida loca, like the American dream. And Bomac is probably looking at him thinking, I don't want your loser sweat in my gym while I'm trying to train Terence Crawford for the biggest fight of his career. So once Terence is done, then you can come in the gym and, you know, I'll give you your one-to-one PT sessions. And I think that's what it is, because Bomac only got announced after the Spence Crawford fight. You didn't see footage of Eubank in that gym prior.
Who does a 5-week camp, Danny? Right? That's kind of, I don't know, man. You guys have the private investigators on this one. The paparazzi was taking the shots. Dave, what do you think? Is all this going to play a factor in this fight now? Are you going to, you know?
I was favoring Smith to begin with, but now hearing this inside, I mean, living here in Vegas now, there's one thing that Vegas is well known for is vices, guys. Whether it's gambling, whether it's an addiction to food or an addiction to sex. This is not what I want to hear coming out of Chris Eubank's camp. He already had an issue with his diet, and he's already had a career where he's fought at multiple weight classes. And I think that we saw that his punch resistance in that Liam Smith fight is shot. And I'm waiting for Liam Smith to catch him with a similar shot this weekend. Or maybe it'll just be an accumulation of punches. But I see this as Liam Smith, a guy who's been in there with the face of boxing. This guy's got a fairly good resume. And fighting at the proper weight class. I think Liam Smith is now a full-blown middleweight. And you got, like you guys just pointed out, that Chris Eubanks is living a celebrity life. And that's not the kind of life for a fighter should be living in the city of Las Vegas. I'm favoring Liam Smith by stoppage again.
Wow. Okay. D-Style, help me out here. Am I going to be the only lone person on this panel picking simply the best? Chris Eubank Jr.?
I mean, maybe if you take back that Tyson Fury statement, I might join you. Like if you drop that nonsense, maybe, you know. But in all seriousness, look, I know Smith got the knockout, and I don't like. I don't know if you guys saw a statement. Eubank said that Smith was. I read it. I don't even know if he said it, but I read. I think it was Boxing Scene that he said he was practicing to purposely hit me with the elbow, and I just don't know. That's like I think it was an accidental elbow. In fairness,
It was an accident.
yeah, but I don't think he turned into John Jones in the training camp and is landing elbows on dudes now. You know what I mean? I think it was an accident, and I do honestly believe that's why he knocked him out. Like I think that affected him, threw his equilibrium off, and he couldn't recover. And credit to Smith, he took advantage of the situation. You know what I mean? And the ref didn't quite catch the elbow. It is what it is. That doesn't mean that if he didn't land it, that he couldn't win. Looking back at the fight, it was kind of close, the fight, but I still felt, and most people had it like 3-0 or 2-1 Eubank, right? Like round one, maybe you could give it to, most people gave it to Smith. Like if you gave Smith the round, some gave him round two, but for the most part, I saw a lot of 3-0s, a lot of 2-1s. Now, very early in the fight, obviously, but I honestly felt like he caught him with a good shot, hurt him, took advantage of it. If Smith wins, it's going to be a decision, I think, this time, if he wins. But I'm going with Eubank. Despite the partying, despite the chaotic stuff, I don't know. It just seems like this year, every time I hear things are chaotic and like those guys are winning, right? Every time I hear these stories and maybe it is chaotic, that's just how they win. Like that's just how he is. Like he's fought without trainers before. He's not a stable dude. Like maybe less stability might work for him. I don't know, but I still honestly to God believe Eubank is a better fighter than Smith. I believe that. I think he's a better fighter. I'm gonna pick him to win. I think he wins the decision this time. We'll see, but hopefully he didn't party too much.
Well, Tony P says when he's at these parties, he's not drinking alcohol. He's drinking water. Probably. I
don't know what's in the water.
So
no, yeah. From what I've seen,
he just reassured me. He just reassured me.
No, when I've seen him in clubs, he doesn't drink. But he loves the girls, and we know that women weaken legs.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I don't want to disrespect Jermell Charlo, right? Because I know Terence Crawford said that he would want to fight Jermell Charlo at some point. But I'm hearing a lot of talk now of Crawford saying he wants to fight Canelo if Canelo beats Jermell Charlo. So one question that's popped up on the internet I'm seeing a lot of people ask is, what fight is a bigger fight? What fight would you rather see? Terence Crawford versus Canelo or Canelo versus David Benavidez? I think they're both big fights, but we got to pick which one would be bigger. D-Style, which one do you think?
Which one would be bigger or which one I want to see?
Both. Which one's bigger and which one would you rather see?
I think Crawford-Canelo is the bigger fight. I think that one does probably 2.53 million, believe it or not. I think that fight does amazing buys, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I still think Benavidez Canelo does over 1 million. I think they're both big fights. Which one I would rather see, though, and the reason for that is that the casuals have gotten to know Crawford. There's already talks happening. The casuals don't even understand the weight classes like we do. Like we're boxing heads. Like the casuals going to be like, oh, Crawford, Canelo, both good. Me watch. Like it's simple as that, right? But Benavidez Canelo to me is the right fight to make. It's the fight I want to see. I think Benavidez is the guy he's been in line to a certain degree at 168 pounds. And it's very disheartening seeing people that were basically, sounding the drums for this fight just a couple months ago, just change their tune like overnight. Like as soon as Canelo signed with PBC, I don't hear those drums anymore. And I don't understand why. Like if you wanted to see it then, why don't you want to see it now? Right? Do you really don't care anymore? Just Canelo's with PBC now? Like, is that really what it is? Like, I don't get it. Look, it's the fight to make, in my opinion. It's a correct fight to make. Benavidez is the number 2 guy at 168 pounds. He's a real 168 pounder. There's a certain threat there for Canelo. There is a perception, whether true or not, I'm not in Canelo's head, right? But there's a perception. Canelo's not exactly in a rush and in a hurry to fight that guy, right? And that's a perception that they could sell. That's a perception they could go with. And I was always, as soon as Canelo signed with PBC, I said to myself, well, maybe this means he fights Benavidez, but it seems like Canelo's so close, yet so far away, right? Because every PBC fighter in and around Canelo's weight classes kind of tell, and I'm not necessarily saying Crawford's a PBC guy, but you know what I mean? He's in that sphere right now. You know what I mean? So every guy there is like, oh, I want to fight this guy. Why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? Even Plant is saying, oh, I want my rematch. Like that ain't going to happen. But they're putting their hat out there. And I want to see the Benavidez fight, man. I know it's not the bigger fight. I know it's not going to sell more. But ask me if I care that it's not going to sell more. I just don't. I don't care that much. It's good for the sport, to see the sport sell a lot. And that's great and all. But I feel like Canelo could fight Crawford after Benavidez. Like even if Benavidez beats Canelo, you could still do a super fight with Crawford and Canelo. Now, someone might say, "Well, what's in it for Crawford? There will be no belts on the line." It's a super fight, bro. Like you know what I mean. You didn't need belts for Pacquiao, Mayweather. You didn't need any type of belt for McGregor, Mayweather. It's a fight people would watch, but I just want to see the right fight get made. It's the hardcore fans fight. I want to see the fight. So I want to see Benavidez, Crawford. And one last thing. I know there's a lot of people out there that for some reason are getting pleasure off the fact that Benavidez might not get the fight. He's not going to get the fight. I just don't. I don't get it, man. Like what's the pleasure behind that? I don't understand it. I had some people quote tweet me when I said I don't think Benavidez is going to get the fight, and they're taking pleasure off of it. I don't understand why. Like at the end of the day, I get that Benavidez' dad talked trash and Samson was talking trash, but all that stuff to me is elementary to me. I don't care about that. I just know I want to see that fight. So it's a dangerous fight for Canelo, and it's a correct fight to make, in my opinion.
Dave, something interesting here about the whole situation with Benavidez, and I'll tell you, it reminds me of the whole Spence Crawford situation, where I feel the longer this fight takes to get made, a lot of people are saying that Canelo could get aged out. But another concern that I have is Benavidez being able to make 168 comfortably, because this guy seems to be busting out at the seams. Could this be a situation, right? Because people are saying that this is the better fight. We thought that this Crawford-Spence fight was going to be a great fight. But again, we saw that the years of being at one weight class so long, same thing with Benavidez. He's been in this weight class for a while. We know he's only 25. But let's get to the question. What's the bigger fight and what's the better fight? But also keep in mind, the longer this goes on, could it be detrimental to Benavidez? And maybe it won't be as much of a shootout as we think, because he may not be 100% if he's trying to make 168. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a valid point?
I think it's a very valid point. My opinions aren't going to stray too much from what D-Stop just said, but you bring up a very, very important point that David Benavidez, as a high school student, weighed in excess of some 240 pounds. Okay, so his journey, his weight loss journey to get to where he is as a 25-year-old has been nothing short of remarkable. And I just got some promotional seats to see Zurdo Ramirez, who was also the former 168-pound champion and is now campaigning, and just what seemed a few years back as a 168-pound fighter, will be campaigning now as some kind of catchweight cruiserweight. And they're basically the same frame. This fight, if it doesn't get made soon, will probably never be made because there will be no motivation for Canelo to fight Benavidez at 175 pounds. And as D-Stop pointed out, as a hardcore boxing fan, I want to see Canelo, the undisputed super middleweight champ, defend against the best fighters in his division, the guys who've earned it. Let's be reminded that David Benavidez did not lose his title to an opponent. He lost it because of his own vices, once to cocaine and once because he couldn't make weight. So it's a very valid point. The longer this gets drawn out, his body will not allow him to be this thin. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see it as soon as possible. I would love to see that Cinco de Mayo next year, where I think David Benavidez will still be in very good position to stay at that weight and tip-top shape. We saw how good he looked against Caleb Plant physically. Now, this fight that everyone's talking about, this super dream fight, is something, it's a legacy fight. It's arguably the two best fighters of our current generation, the face of boxing. And Terence Crawford could easily be the best fighter of this generation. Two guys wildly apart in weight, not necessarily in height, doing it for the fans, doing it for the entire sports world. I think that fight is the biggest fight that boxing can make financially. I think it will go way beyond just the boxing fans. I think it will resonate with all the sports fans. Terence Crawford daring to do something incredible, moving up 20 pounds to fight what is perceived as the face of boxing. The dangerous fight is David Benavidez. That one needs to happen now for all of us, the people that are listening to this podcast. It's still going to sell well. It's still going to sell in excess of 1 million pay-per-views. David Benavidez is quickly gaining a huge audience, guys. Let's not fool ourselves. He did very well against Caleb Plant in as far as live gate and pay-per-view sales. Still a great fight, and I can't wait and hope that one gets made this following year.
Just really quick. I'll be really quick. It gives me, it would be a big fight for my community as far as the Mexican American community, and this gives me like Chavez, like that veteran fighter, aging veteran against a younger Oscar De La Hoya vibes, but it has a mix though of like De La Hoya, the older guy, against Vargas, right? It's like a mix of both. And I think it would be a big fight. I really do. And I'm confident Canelo wins. So after that fight, then hey, it makes the Crawford fight even bigger, in my opinion. But just wanted to put that out there.
What fight do you like better, Base? The Crawford Canelo or the Canelo Benavidez? And do you think that the Crawford with the Canelo fights is a bigger fight than the Benavidez fight would be?
Crawford Canelo is 1,000 times bigger. It's the fight that I actually kind of want now from a weird point of view. Like realistically, it should make no sense. Someone moving up 3 weight classes. Ultimately, if you go from obviously where he started, we're talking 33 pounds of extra weight. It seems crazy. But then I think to myself, well, Usyk was at 200 and he took the title from someone that was 242. So he went up 42 pounds, or he went to face someone 42 pounds heavier than where he'd been campaigning. So when you look at the weight classes, yes, there are weight classes for a reason. And up to a certain point, I actually don't want to say the phrase as it was coming to my head. But at a certain point, weight classes matter. And then I guess at another point, you just have to look at, does, are there, what advantages or disadvantages do you have? Now, in this particular one, Terence Crawford I think he's slightly taller than Canelo. Canelo would definitely be used to taking a lot bigger shots. Crawford will have a speed advantage. I can't say that Canelo is the stronger of the two. Anyone who tells me that someone is stronger than Crawford, I always have to say I don't have proof of that, because I've seen Crawford do things that a person his size shouldn't be able to do. plus obviously all that wrestling background, I don't feel like he's got someone that can get pushed around the ring or bullied around by the quote unquote bigger guy. So there's no height to overcome, there's no reach to overcome, got the speed advantage. Canelo might hit harder technically because obviously that more power drawn from the ground up, but Crawford's got the speed, which means that you can probably time him a lot better. He's very good. They're both counter punchers essentially, so it's whoever's counter lands first. It's just a lot more intriguing. The Benavidez fight is very is a lot more sort of, I feel, routine. In terms of both guys, like there's neither of them have to figure out each other. You know what you're getting on either side, and I still think that's a much easier fight for Canelo, in my opinion. I know Danny obviously has a different opinion on that, and I'm always willing to accept that up until the point of when the fight happens. But yeah, as D-Style had said, like, you've not heard almost anything about that Benavidez fight since Canelo went over to PBC. So it's almost like before when it was, it's because we can't get him, so let's just use his name for clout. Now he's here. Oh, okay, let's keep quiet because we might actually get it. And that's kind of what it sounds like. That's how it feels. So yeah, like overall, I feel like the Benavidez fight needs to happen just for or just for the people who was, that was their champion. All right, let's see him take down that guy. But the fight that intrigues me most, that I, from a selfish point of view, want to see, and also that if we look at the American market specifically, that whole African American black versus Mexican American Mexican that's the dynamic. Like, that's what seems to draw the most amount of money from the most amount of households. So it's a much bigger fight. The casuals, it's a perfect fight for the casuals as well. And if they made it, like, I will pay. I will find a way to get to the arena, and I'll have it on both pay-per-view in the UK and the US. Like, I'll do whatever I need to because I want to be there for that.
So that's once in a lifetime fight for you, right? That's what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna scrap the what's bigger part of the question to this. I'm just gonna go straight ahead with you, the last two guys here. What fight you like better, the Crawford Canelo or the Benavidez Canelo? Which fight do you think is more intriguing? Which fight would you rather see happen, Danny?
I'd rather see my Ecuadorian nephew David Benavidez get in there because he's the guy who's been running him down. That's the one that's been talked about for a lot longer. Yes, Crawford is the new hot ticket in town, the new flavor of the month. But this fight has been building for a while with Benavidez. And I just see that, yes, I saw that Shoeshine Boxing, he was saying that about the weight thing. But you got to remember, Canelo is slowing down. He's slowing down. His output is just becoming less and less. And we know David Benavidez, his main attribute is that work rate, is the combination punching. I do not think Canelo will be able to keep up with it. You'll have the Mexican monster who Canelo, tries to say, I don't fight Mexicans, but then we know David Benavidez will rock the Ecuadorian flag, and then he's just nullified that and say, hey man, let's just make a Hispanic Latino fight. I just think that's the better fight at the end of the day. Terence Crawford moving up 3 weights. Yes, he can see it as well. Canelo did start off at 147, so he's not like some crazy, but it's not like he's fighting someone like David Benavidez or Zerdo, because Canelo's shorter than him. He's stockier, but he started off at 147. Could probably, if he really pushed it, make 160. But yeah, I don't think that's the best fight for Terence to do. The biggest fight for Terence right now is everyone wants to see him whoop up Charlo, don't they? Because of how he was doing those gestures at the side of the ring, and we know Charlo, and he's got a good. Him and Charlo would be good trash talking back and forth, because we know Charlo knows how to talk. Crawford, he's a bit of a hothead, so we know that can get a bit fiery. We might see Charlo's misses and Terence Crawford's sister get at it. It could get spicy. Whereas the big fight for Canelo is the David Benavidez fight. Why are they trying to now push Terence Crawford in to get the smaller man in. It's like they're trying to swerve it because, you know, he's on the PBC deal. So is that the reason why now all of a sudden now Canelo signed with PBC, you're now trying to get away from David Benavidez and throwing all these other obstacles, Andrade, David Morrell, and all these other guys? Like, how many? Okay, so he's got to fight. It's like Coach Malachi Williams said. All right, also he's got to fight Android 18. He's got to fight Frieza. He's got to fight Cell. He's got to fight Vegeta. He's got to fight Voltron. He's got to fight Megatron. You're gonna put all these guys and say that Benavidez has to fight he's got to fight all these guys. Oh, his resume is not big enough. You're always going to say he needs to do more until he gets beat. Let's just keep it a buck. You don't want to see Canelo get whooped by the new guy. That's what it is. They want to save Canelo, but at the end of the day, time is running out, and the longer he leaves it, the worse the beating's going to get. So just hurry up and make the fight.
Look. Look. Let me just say this. Even though I don't agree with what Dan is saying, I do like that narrative. I do. Like, that makes boxing exciting. What happened to, like, I do believe there should be a certain level of shame given to Canelo, right? Like, I'm a Canelo fan, but guess what? I do think he should be shamed a little bit, right? Into like, yo, are you scared of this dude or what? Because the media's not asking him about him anymore, right? No one's asking Canelo about Benavidez before. Canelo would get irritated when they would ask him about Benavidez, right? So I do think, like, that needs to happen some more. Like do your jobs, ask him about Benavidez. Like, I get that the Crawford fight's bigger, but I just think Danny made some phenomenal points right there.
Okay. So, Lee, what's your choice?
I would much rather see Canelo versus David Benavidez, because this would be a fight between Canelo, the man who owns all the hardware at 168, against his most dangerous challenger at 168, one of the division's secondary champions. Benavidez is larger, he's longer, he's more explosive, and there are a couple of elements in his game that dovetail perfectly into two of Canelo's weaknesses: work rate and stamina. Now, there was a time not too long ago when Canelo's greatest strength was what he did in the second half of fights. He would start slow, and then he'd pick up the pace, round 6, 7, 8, and then he would come on strong. But against Bivol and Golovkin, the third time around, he slowed down in the late rounds. And against Ryder, he throttled down in round 12. Now, he had the fight well in hand. He was probably just coasting to the finish line. But Benavidez, I think, will push the 33-year-old Canelo from start to finish. And I think at this point, the 26-year-old Benavidez would win. And if Canelo and his people can avoid Benavidez, they will, because I think they know this pretty well. As for Terence Crawford, if that fight is to be made, and if that fight is perceived to be fair, both guys are going to have to be forced to fight at unnatural weights. If you count fight night weights, Canelo has been a super middleweight for more than a decade. Even when he was fighting at 154, his in-ring weight was going to be around 165 to 170. So he's very comfortable fighting at 168. But since Crawford is leaping up a couple of weight classes at least, they might have to come to a catch weight of 161 or 162. I don't think Canelo's going to do that. He's the man in the power position. In order to make him cut weight, you're going to have to pay him the equivalent of Fort Knox, and I don't think they're going to do that. As for Crawford, I think he's playing with house money right now. He dominated Spence. He's now a crossover guy. He's doing the talk show circuit. I think the effect of the Spence fight on Crawford's career is very much like the way marvelous Marvin Hagler's career was enhanced after he knocked out Thomas Hearns. Everybody knew that Hagler was the best guy pound for pound for a lot of years. But it took a knockout against Thomas Hearns to really raise his profile. Those of a certain age, of which I am, remember he did a commercial for Pizza Hut, and he was on the Johnny Carson show. and he made the rounds, just like Crawford is making the rounds right now, doing more interviews than at any other time in his career, and that's a very smart thing for him to do. I think he's got options now. Now that Spence has triggered the rematch clause, that's next, and Bud will probably beat him again, as we said. After that, then he can fight Charlo for 3 of the 154-pound belts. That's because the fight with Canelo, they bill it as undisputed versus undisputed. But remember, the WBO said the moment the first bell rings, the WBO strips Charlo and makes Tszyu the new champion. So that billing is fake. It's not going to be undisputed versus undisputed. It's undisputed versus 3-belt guy who's coming up 2 weight classes. All right. So, and then after that, Crawford could fight Charlo. He could fight Canelo afterwards. That might be the final fight, let's say, of Crawford's career. That would be a destination fight. Bud is now out to make the most money possible. He has now established his credentials, top pound-for-pound guy, first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. Now it's time for him to cash in. And a fight against Canelo and Charlo, those 2 fights will make him the most money. I don't know if Canelo and Bud will happen, but in terms of competition and fight quality, I would much rather see Canelo versus Benavidez over Canelo Crawford. Let's see Benavidez first, and then Crawford later.
Lee, just to say one thing quickly. With regards to the whole weight thing, and they said, to make it fair, you'd have to get Canelo to maybe agree to a catch weight. I actually disagree on that. I think Crawford wouldn't come in at the 168 limit anyway, the same way that Derek James has said that he's not expecting Jermell Charlo to come in at 168. He's expecting him to come in around sort of 164, 165. Crawford could very well come in at like 161, because I feel like he'd still trust his strength over Canelo being a bit smaller anyway, carrying less pounds, and he wouldn't have to worry about his gas tank as much. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. I don't think the catch weight would be necessary.
That makes sense. That makes sense, Base, because why compromise yourself? I guess they say he walks around at about 165. So when you're training, obviously you're going to lose a little bit of weight. So yeah, maybe he will come in about 162. That makes sense. Why bog yourself down?
Right.
All right, home stretch. Last topic of the night. So Manny Pacquiao has said and requested that he be part of the 2024 Olympic Games. 44 years. He's 44 now. I think when it comes around, obviously he'll be 45, right? So, Lee, is this too much? I mean, the guy's been away from the ring in a real fight for a long time. Is this a good move? Is this something that they would probably have to take a second look at if you're part of the Olympic Committee?
Well, I think it's a moot point because you're right. Manny will be 45 years old by the time the Paris Games comes around in July of 2024. And unless the rules are changed, the maximum age for boxers in the Olympics is 40. So, according to one report, in 2013, AIBA raised the age limit from 34 to 40 in hopes that Mayweather, who was then 36, and Pacquiao, who was then 34, would choose to compete in the Rio Olympics. But even if the age limit is raised to 45 to accommodate Pacquiao, he's still going to have to qualify for the games. And that's usually a long, hard process. But the amateur, one possible route that he could go is to go to the Asian Games. I think that that's one of the tournaments that will be used to qualify Olympic boxers. But then again, Pacquiao is Pacquiao. He brings star power, he brings publicity, he brings money. So would the entity that controls Olympic boxing make an exception for Pacquiao? Let him into the tournament, but nobody else over age 40. And And I did a little research. We've had older pro boxers compete in the Olympics, and they didn't fare so well. Carmine Tomasoni was the first pro to compete in the Olympics in the modern era. I think he was in his 30s. And while he won his first bout, he was eliminated in fight 2. 2 more professional veterans fought in the Rio Games. Hassan Ndam lost his opening fight, while Amnat Runrang, who was a former flyweight champion, I believe, he lost his second fight in the Rio Olympics. Female former champion Maiva Hamadouche lost her first fight at the Tokyo Games. Nina Radovanovic, who was in her late 20s, lost in the quarterfinals in Tokyo. But here are a couple of success stories. Bakhtir Jalilov, who was 8-0 with 8 knockouts as a pro at the time he fought in Tokyo, he won the gold medal against Richard Torres Jr. And Keyshawn Davis won the silver, while Andy Cruz won the gold. Both of those guys were in their 20s, and they didn't have a lot of pro fights under their belt. Pacquiao has 72 professional fights and is old enough to be a grandfather, theoretically. He would probably be old enough to be the father of the guys he will be competing against. And then finally, the amateur game is a completely different game than the professional game. It depends on speed and movement and timing and scoring points, so that the scoring points that, Pacquiao was fast in his prime. I don't think he's going to be fast at 45, and especially against the young kids. He's going to have a hard time of it if they let him into the tournament at all.
So listen to this, Lee. They're trying to get him in on a technicality here. There's 9 universality places that are awarded for the 2024 games, with 5 going to women and 4 going to men. So they're trying to squeak him in there on a technicality. He may not even have to qualify, this guy. How's that? Base, what do you think, man? Is it a good move for Pacquiao? I think he should just kind of just do these exhibitions and forget about this stuff, or what do you think?
I think he should more do the exhibitions, because if we're what we're led to believe is true, ultimately the reason he was doing those is because he'd run out of money, did the campaigns and everything, wiped out his bank account, so now he's kind of needing, funding and whatever from that side. Well, the Olympics and like being on those squads don't pay you a huge amount, even if you win. So, okay, for legacy purpose, you might say, yeah, but I'm pretty sure that there is, outside of the age thing, is there not a cutoff of the amount of pro fights you've had before you're disqualified from being able to do an amateur competition?
I think they waived that, Base. I think they waived that. Yeah, because they want to have pros in. So they that was before they had. I think they waived that. I'll have to take a look at it.
I thought you had to have under 10. Anything under 10, you could do it, and if you was above 10, you can't. If they've waived it, then fair enough.
Yeah, I think they waived that.
Okay, well, in that case, if he had to qualify for it, I'd say cool. If he just gets a buy into it, that to me is wrong, because okay, he's had a great pro career, but this is a whole different tournament. Like, you need to earn your stripes in this, and that obviously then means you're taking away the opportunity of someone else that's probably been working a lot harder for this, and you're not even having to prove that you're better than them, or that you are even of the equal standing, to say, oh, the two of you are even, but we're going to give it to him because it's a bigger profile. That's a bit different than we're just going to give it to him. So I disagree with it in that sense, but if he has to go through the qualifiers and all that stuff and earn it, and they allow it, go for it. And if he can do well and represent the Philippines correctly and shine a bit more light on the the boxing in the amateurs in the Olympics, considering that they want to take it away after I think the 2028 games or whatever it is, I'm all for it. But otherwise, if it's just about you getting blighs into the tournament, then no, stay retired or just do the exhibitions.
So D-Style Base makes a great point. Is this even fair? He's taking a spot away from someone who's probably a younger up-and-coming person. Is this even right, in your opinion?
Yes, it's not right. And first of all, I'm not even sure he would win these fights, because it's almost like 2 completely different sports, right? That's number one. So it would be kind of embarrassing if some like 20-year-old like eliminates Manny Pacquiao from the. So he needs to think about that like very seriously. That could seriously happen, right? But it's not like, oh, I'm in fear of the life of these fighters. That's not really what I'm concerned with. It's more so you have these amateurs, these for when they were little kids, have been working their whole life for this opportunity, right?
Yes.
And they're waiting for it, like like here in El Paso, Kayla Gomez, like she's trying to make the Olympic team, you know, to go to the Olympics, and she has a rival right now. They're both in their like early 20s, and you know, it's whatever, right? But could you just imagine like some pro like in their weight class just jumping in and saying, you know what, I kind of want to just do this Olympic thing. And now it's like, well, I already got to compete with this girl, and she's going to come in out of nowhere and compete with us. Like there's qualifications going on. They're fighting for like 4 years. Well, it's like 2 years, right? Because there's the Worlds is between that to qualify. They can just jump in and say, well, I'm Manny Pacquiao. I want to join the Olympics. Like what, dude? You've had it all. Like you've had all the riches. Now, if you blew them, that's on you. But you have all the accolades. You don't need to be an Olympian to add to your legacy, bro. Like you're good. You know what I mean? Like you're Manny Pacquiao. A lot of these kids will never accomplish. Very unlikely what you accomplish in the pros, right? Can they at least try to qualify to become an Olympian? He's gonna jump in and just strip somebody of their dream. Just like that? That's ridiculous, bro. And to me, this is going backwards. Like, what are you doing? It's like oh, Tom Brady. He wants to go back to Michigan and play for them. Should he be allowed? Like what? So some kid that got that. Just imagine you're a kid. You know, you're a star quarterback in high school, Michigan picks you or whatever, right? They recruit you, and then actually, you're gonna sit in the bench. Tom Brady's coming over. He's gonna play, right? Like what? Forget whether or not Tom Brady will be effective in the college game or not, and leave all that aside. Like he would be taking a coveted spot from somebody, and that's what Manny Pacquiao would be doing here. I hope all this is just for publicity or something. I hope part of it's probably not even true. I hope there's some backlash. I don't know if he'll get it or not, but as far as the Olympics goes, and they don't need to worry about star names and star fighters being boxing. What they need to worry about is fixing the corruption in amateur boxing. That's what you need to fix. Okay, focus on that shit. Like, okay, don't worry about whether or not pros are going to be going to the Olympics and taking spots and all that. I think that is absolute nonsense. If it was up to me, I don't even think anybody should be allowed to fight as an amateur boxer past the age of 29. I think 30 should be the cutoff date. That's my opinion. All right. But that's nobody has to agree with that. But I just don't think at a certain age you should go to the pros, man. That's it. All right. Like 40-year-olds should not be fighting freaking 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. Like I'm just saying, you know what I mean? But that's all I got.
What do you think, Danny? This a clout chase for Pacquiao?
Yeah, but he won't get the same backlash as if someone like Floyd would do it. Oh, why is Floyd doing it? Oh, has he got money problems? Oh, is he attention seeking? What when Manny Pacquiao does it? Oh, it's so noble. Oh, yes, give him a chance. Oh, it's so great. This is what the public perception is mainly going to be like. But the fact is, if he fights somebody, remember, Amir Khan entered the Olympics when he was 17. If Manny's going into it at 45 years old, imagine he fights a 17-year-old. That's a 28-year difference. That's ballistic. Like, he's not going to fare too well. And remember, it's only 3 rounds. He ain't got time. Like, you got 3 rounds, 3 minutes. Like, he ain't got time to really. Yeah, these little whippersnappers. Like, if you've sparred some of these little young kids, over the first few rounds, they can get the better of you, make you look stupid. It's only when the wily old fox trick starts to kick in, and you can start hitting them with the granddad shots and old man in them in there like Hopkins. Then you can start to get busy and do stuff. But by then, it's going to be too late for Pacquiao. He's not been active. He's going to be 45 years old. He's going to be too slow, too inactive, and it's just not going to do well for him. But the only good thing is, ain't next year the last one for boxing, not 2028, by the way, Base. Yeah, I think next year's the last one, the Paris one. So
I don't think that's a good thing, though.
no, I don't think it's a good thing. But I'm saying this is probably
they're taking the whole sport out.
Yeah.
The Olympics?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's horrible.
Okay, really quick, it's a yes and no. So as of right now, it's been removed because they're trying to replace AIBA. Right? AIBA has been banned completely, right? But the hope is that they put it back in.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there. I'll be at the Paris Olympics next year.
Oh wow.
For the boxing. I'm gonna watch it on my birthday. I think there's like 3 semi-finals and a final on that day. So I'm going to be at that one. But yeah, for Manny, it's not going to bode well. Yeah, it'd be good advertisement for the Philippines. Maybe bring through some young bucks and stuff. But as you know, Bay said, it's taking away a young kid's hopes and dreams who's probably been training for it for the past 4 years, maybe 8 years, maybe even 10 years. Where Pacquiao, I don't think he's really desiring to get a gold medal. I don't think he really believes he's going to get a medal in this Olympics. It's more just advertisement for, I don't know, political reasons or some other business venture he's probably doing. But, you know, everyone's got their reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. But he ain't going to get anywhere in it. He's just going to, you know, they'll probably make him hold the torch for his country, like be the flag bearer for the Philippines, athletes wise, because they're not really known for Olympic sports like that. But yeah, it's good advertising, but he ain't gonna get nowhere.
You think, Dave, is Pacquiao trying to grab some headlines here, or is this a serious thing?
You're muted.
Muted, Dave. Dave, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
How's breakdancing in the Olympics now? They want to get rid of one of the best sports in the world, boxing. How's that even a thing? Breakdancing is something that just entered the Olympics. It's straight up. This is just publicity, man. And I feel the same way about him getting a free pass to maybe just compete without going through the entire process. As like the NBA, you know, the allowing NBA players to compete against non-professionals. It doesn't sit right with me. It's kind of a travesty, but it's probably going to be a big boost to television ratings. Like you just said, I can totally envision Manny Pacquiao being the torchbearer. You know, I'm not happy with it, but you know, we'll see if he actually competes.
Gotcha. Did you have something, Danny? Oh, you're muted, Danny.
Yeah, D-Star, I don't think you should make it a cut-off point at 30 because I know in the amateur system it was 35 was the limit. And you got to remember, some of those countries are like communist countries like, well, I know Cuba now are allowing fighters to turn pro. But before, they couldn't turn pro. So 30, you can't really make them all be done and dusted at 30.
No, I mean, I get your point, but how many communist countries are there in 2024? I mean, there's not that many anymore. Lomachenko was not in a communist country. He chose to stay pro. I mean, amateur for too long, in my opinion. So I just think it should be. It's just my opinion. I mean, but I just don't think someone should be. I don't think a 35-year-old, you know, guy, right, or somebody in their 30s should be fighting 18-year-olds. Like in my opinion, like that's just the way I feel about it. Like you're fighting kids. Like so some of these dudes are essentially pros fighting kids, and they're like, and I get okay, you're 2-time gold medal, 3-time gold medal. Okay, that sounds nice and all, but you shouldn't have been there anymore. You know what I mean? Like I think you made your point by winning the gold medal one time. At that point, you move on, right? Because the competition keeps recycling. Like these young bucks go to the pros, right? And then they just recycle you another set of young bucks, and then you stay there as like this veteran dude. But in the pros, it doesn't quite work like that because everyone is getting experience along with you, right? And everyone's growing along with you. So I just think like there needs to be a cutoff. It's in my opinion. There's going to be I know it's going to be situations like maybe a country doesn't allow them to go pro. That's just a minority in my opinion, but
maybe Pacquiao could train his son to be an Olympian. That might get him the same type of publicity, you know.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, that'll do it. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat. Thank you, everyone on the panel. We will catch you next week. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Peace.